Good afternoon, everyone. This is Queenie Clem with Queenie's Book Talk and Reviews, and I am your literary ambassador. And today I have Chrystal, Giles on my channel today. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Hello, I'm so happy to be here.
Thank you. Can you introduce yourself, please?
Yes, I'm Chrystal Giles. I'm an author, and Take Back the Block is my middle grade debut. So it's my first book. I live in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I'm a mom to a 5-year-old little boy. And I'm a reader. I love to read, and I'm happy to be in the writing space.
Yes, yes, yes. How did you become a children's author?
So I have had a whole career in finance. I have an accounting degree. And so that's where kind of my professional career was. I've loved to read as a young person. So I spent a lot of time with books as a young person, but I didn't think about writing at all until my son was born. So about 5 years ago, or maybe 6 years now, my husband and I were looking for books for my son to kind of start a library. And I was looking for very particular books. I wanted books that had little black boys on the front because I have a black son. And for my husband's first Father's Day, I wanted to get a book bundle, and I wanted it to be fathers and sons. And so I went on a journey to find that, and I was really sad that I could not find what I wanted. I thought it would be easy, and I was naive enough to think that I could go to the store and come home with a stack of books. And I was sad that I couldn't do that. So that really set me out on a journey to find out why. So I started reading articles and searching, and I realized at that point that there's a huge disparity in the children's book space. And there just were not a lot of books that represented my family. And there were some out there and some amazing authors who have been in this space for a long time, but the particular books I wanted to see, I didn't see. So I wrote a book. I started writing picture books first, and so that kind of set me on a journey to being an author of children's books, mainly with focus on Black kids being on the front cover and being the center of their stories.
Okay. Tell us about your book and what inspired you to write it.
Yes, so my novel, Take Back the Block, it's about 11-year-old Wes. That's him on the cover. He's a cool kid. He's stylish. He's into sneakers and fashion. He loves video games and basketball. And he does not love being dragged from one community event to another by his activist parents. He grew up in a neighborhood called Kensington Oaks. It's where his friends live, is where his mom grew up. And a powerful developer comes in and they target his neighborhood for redevelopment. And so that triggers Wes to start a fight for his neighborhood. He really wants to save it. He doesn't want to move. And so he gathers up his friend group and he comes up with a plan to save his neighborhood from gentrification. And so the story itself is about that journey. It's also about friendship. A lot of interesting, fun things happen with his friendships. Middle grade is a perfect place where friendship starts to fall apart, and sometimes you have conflict. And so there's a lot of friendship kind of dynamics there. And we watch Wes kind of change his perspective on a lot of things throughout the story. So that's the book, and it's directly inspired by my hometown. I live in Charlotte, North Carolina, and it, like probably most mid to large size cities in this nation, are experiencing gentrification or the displacement of marginalized communities. And so I really, I've lived in this city my whole life, and I've seen it change a lot. And I just really became bothered and worried by all of the changes and like what happens to families and children when their neighborhoods are completely transformed. Many of the areas I frequented as a young person, areas I grew up in, areas around the schools I went to, they just look so different. And it's like, what happened to the people, you know? And so that really kind of stuck in my mind. And if you know me in my real life, I talk about it all the time. So I decided to put it in a book. I decided to focus on a personal journey of a family in a neighborhood fighting to stay whole. So that was the inspiration.
Okay. What sparked the idea of Take Back the Block? Was
So for
it real
sure,
life? Mm-hmm.
so for sure, everything that happened in my city, and then also Wes, the main character. I had written a picture book, and it's not published, and we'll probably ever read it. But I had written a picture book about a community that was kind of lyrical, and it talked about changing communities, and it was kind of a vague look, but I had a whole lot more to say, and I wanted to tell the story in more detail, and so I kind of took that picture book that I wrote and I expanded it. I changed the characters in the neighborhood and all that, but I took that little idea and I expanded it into the novel.
Okay. What were there any? What were the challenges you had to encounter to complete this book?
So I think the main challenge was I was concerned that maybe no one cared about the topic enough, right? So
Mhm.
this topic is not a topic that you see in a lot of children's books. It's also not a topic that a lot of people know what to do with. Um, Changing communities and gentrification. If you talk to anybody, you'll get many different definitions. I talked to adults early on who didn't know what the word was. I talked to people who thought, oh well, it helps us. Why is that a bad thing? And so the topic is a topic that I think a lot of people either don't understand, or it's such a big topic that people don't know what to do with it. So I thought, I don't know if people want to read about this, and especially not in a book that's targeted for young readers. So a lot of the challenge was in my mind with, is this a book that people really will care about? Um, I pushed through and wrote the book fairly quickly. The first draft, it was kind of short and it wasn't that good, but I pushed myself through to write it. But a lot of the challenge came kind of internally with, do people care, right? Like,
Mhm.
is this voice a voice that people really want to see?
Okay. If you could let people know anything about you, what would it be?
Oh, that I'm a hard worker. I push myself really hard. Um, I want to get things right. And I don't know if I'm a perfectionist, but I'm close to it. And I put a lot of care into the story. I put a lot of care into the characters. I wanted to make sure that the representation was true. I wanted these I wanted the people in this book to feel like people you know, right? Like, I wanted these kids to feel like kids that you went to school with, kids in your neighborhood. I wanted young readers to see themselves in the characters. And so I focused a lot on how they dress, what they look like, how they talk.
Mhm.
I focused a lot on their haircuts, because haircuts are everything for Black little boys. And so I
Yes.
wanted I wanted all that stuff to be in the book. And so part of that perfectionism or getting it right is part of my personality, and I wanted to get it right for this book.
Can you share a bit of your writing process?
Yeah, so I have a process that I don't even know if it's a real process. Um, so I don't get a ton of ideas for books. Some people have ideas all the time and they have like 50 ideas written in a book.
Mhm.
That's not really me. So I have ideas that kind of come up across to me. And if they come up in my mind often enough, I'll take out my iPhone and I'll put a note in there. And if it comes back again, maybe I'll write a paragraph about the story.
Mhm.
Um, and then if a character comes in my mind, so that's the most important part. If a character forms in my mind, I go, okay, now I have a voice. Now I have someone who I can tell the story through. And if I can get that character voice from my iPhone to my laptop,
Mhm.
then I know I may have a story. So from there, I just write. I don't really outline. I don't really have a firm process for this is how the story should look. And so with Take Back the Block, I just wrote. That character was speaking to me very clear, and so I just wrote on the page. I had a general idea of how I wanted the story to end. I
Mhm.
didn't quite know what the climax would be or anything like that. And so I pushed through. If you do that though, you will have a lot of revision.
Mhm.
So it's not a controlled process. So you will have to edit a lot. Um, so in my latest story that I'm drafting, I've started to try to think about the story in big chunks, like each act, what should happen. And so I don't know if it's helping me at all because I really just like the characters to kind of move around on the page. But I'm trying to be a little bit more strategic about how I get there so that I can revise less when I get to the end of the book.
Okay. What avenues do you take to market your book?
Oh, that's tough. So I'm a debut author, so all this stuff is very new to me.
Mhm.
So the marketing process is one that happens mostly with the publishing company,
Mhm.
and what they do is sometimes unseen to me. um, their school. This book is really targeted for school and libraries.
Mhm.
One because of the age range, but then also because a lot of people see it as a book that people can learn from and that young people can learn about topics that maybe they don't know about or topics that happen in their communities. So I've been doing a lot of talking to teachers and librarians, a lot of panels and interviews where I speak directly to people who really we call gatekeepers. Books can't get into schools if librarians and teachers aren't interested.
Mhm.
Um, they can't get into your neighborhoods if booksellers and independent bookstores aren't interested. So I've done a lot of that. On my own, I do a lot of social media. Twitter and Instagram are kind of where I spend more time. And again, there is connecting with teachers, librarians, reviewers, bloggers. It's a little tough when writing for kids in this age range because you can't talk to them. They're not on social media. You can't go run look 8-year-olds down and say, read my book. So you have to find a way to connect to them through the people who give them books. And so that can be a bit of a challenge in this space, but I've tried to do all those things, and hopefully it's working. We'll see. I don't know. Maybe for my next book I'll be better at marketing because I still haven't figured it out yet.
Okay. Okay. What was your publishing journey like?
Oh, so I had a fun publishing journey. It happened quickly after I got this book with an agent. So I wrote a lot of picture books early on. I got a lot of rejections from agents. And that was hard. I kind of started losing
Mhm.
confidence
Mhm.
in kind of what I set out to do. When I finished the draft of this book and I started working on editing it, I felt really good about it. I felt like this book is a book that deserves a place in the market. And so um, I was a bit more strategic with how I wanted to find an agent. So I did a lot of pitch contests. There's one called DV Pit, it's for diverse voices, and that one was specifically for people who are looking for diverse books. So I thought, okay, my book can kind of fit in that space.
Mhm.
And so I got a decent response there. So I started querying agents, and then I entered Pitch Wars. And so Pitch Wars is a mentor process. You enter into it if you're chosen. It's very hard to be chosen. And then you go on like a fast paced revision for like 3 months or so. And at the end of it, you enter into an agent showcase. And basically, a bunch of agents see a sample of your story and they see your pitch. And then you will get requests and then hopefully you'll find an agent. And so that process is very competitive, it's very fast paced, it's also fun and it's hard at the same time. So I did that. um I got chosen for Pitch Wars. I revised my story completely. I went through the agent showcase. I got a ton of requests and I found my agent through that process. So I signed with my agent, I think March 1st of 2019. And by April 1st of 2019, We had sent it out on submission. The book went to auction, and I signed with Random House as my publisher in a month. So it was a whirlwind, and it was crazy, and I was nervous and scared and happy. And so that process happened very quickly, but a lot of work happened before it. And so I like to think the publication process has been fun.
Mm-hmm. What has been your greatest accomplishment thus far in your writing career?
I'd say the book itself, putting it out in the world during a pandemic. It is, like I had no idea this would be how it came out. I had no idea we'd be going through so many things during this time. And so just the fact that it's out in the world and people can get it, I stayed true to the story I wanted to tell. And so I'm very proud of that. There's some sections of the book where, you have to edit, you have to tweak, you have to make sure that it is marketable. And so, but I still was able to keep the heart of the book the same. And so I'm very proud of that. And I'm just proud that it's out. Like the journey to get there is a long one. And 2020 was extremely hard. It debuted in January of 2021, a week after the inauguration, during COVID, during the vaccination rollout that was not good, after the insurrection, like all this stuff was happening. And so I'm happy that the book's out. So I'm very proud of that.
Yes. What are you currently working on right now?
So I have another book that will be published in probably fall 2022. It's another middle grade contemporary novel. It doesn't have a title yet, and we're not quite at the point where we're pitching it, but it will be out. I'm editing that now. And I'm also working on drafting another story. We'll see. I'm not that far into it, so I have no idea where the story will end up. But I kind of like it, and I feel good about it. So right now, both of those are middle grade contemporary stories. So those are what I'm working on. And I'm excited. I love the middle grade space. I love the voice in this age. It's so much fun to write.
Can you read a snippet from your book?
Sure. Let's see. Okay. I will read a little bit about Wes because the story itself, people always think is very serious because of the topics, and it's actually a lot more funny and fun than people think. So I'll read a little bit about Wes, who's the main character. So he is about to start his first day of middle school, and he's getting himself ready. The first day of middle school is a big deal. It's an even bigger deal for the best dressed title holder, which happened to be me. There are certain times you should come to school with the freshest look possible. The first day of school, the day after Christmas break, and the day after spring break. I picked out my outfit weeks ago. Indigo denim shorts and a royal blue Supreme t-shirt. Until yesterday, the only things missing were my Steph Currys that Mom had surprised me with as a late birthday present. With one last stroke of the hairbrush, my waves floated right up to the shore of my crispy edge up. I rubbed on one more coat of lotion, dashed out the door, and headed to school. I'll read one more little portion because he's all about style. So this tells you about his style. I know looking good isn't everything, but it's one of the best things. Dad always says style is a language. I get my style from Dad. I'm a mini version of him. We have the same build, medium brown skin and lanky build. And he tries to keep up with my shoe game. So Wes is all about fashion. It's one of the things that you find really from the beginning of the story, and it kind of carries through to the end. And so throughout the story, he does learn to care about many other things, but his style is one of the things that I love the most about him. I think young people have the freshest style, and so I wanted to make sure I put that in the book.
Okay, where can readers find you and your book?
Yeah, so I am on social media. I'm on Twitter at Creatively Chris. I'm on Instagram at Chrystal D. Giles. And my website is crystaldgiles.com. And so I'm pretty active at all those places. I usually respond if someone tags me or something. And the book is out now. It's available everywhere books are sold. Um, so anywhere you look, you can find the book right now. And so pick it up, support, pass it along to your young readers. I think it's actually really good, even for teenagers, just because it introduces maybe some topics that they're not familiar with. And I find a lot of adults really enjoy the book
I
too.
did. I did.
Yeah, so I think it's a book that really is great for a lot of different ages.
Okay. Is there anything else you would like to add before we close?
I don't think so. More than anything, like I said, support books about Black kids, right? People don't always think that marketing Black books sell, and that's not true. We need books that are specific to our culture and our children. We need to put books in the hands of kids so that they know they can be the main characters and the heroes of their own stories. So we tell the world that we're marketable when we purchase books, when we share them, when we review them, when we check them out from our libraries, when we talk them up. All of that helps the world know that our stories are important and we can tell our own stories. So that's what I would say to anyone listening. It's up to us to push them so that people know that we care about our own stories.
Okay. Well, thank you for coming in today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
All right, this is Queenie Clem with Queenie's Book Talk and Reviews. Happy reading. Bye, y'all.